Welcome back to Story Behind the Painting, episode 32. I'm your host, and today we are stepping straight into the whispered, gilded halls of the late 16th century French royal court. Imagine walking through the Louvre Museum, past the iconic, heavily guarded Mona Lisa, past the grand classical sculptures. Suddenly you stop in front of a canvas that instantly makes you do a double take. Two strikingly pale, bare-breasted women sit side by side in a bathtub. Their faces are identical, porcelain, almost eerie. But then your eyes drop to the center of the frame. One sister is reaching out, calmly and deliberately pinching the nipple of the other. Meanwhile, the second woman delicately holds a small gold ring between her fingers. Is it erotic art? A bizarre royal announcement? A coded political survival story? Or perhaps an ancient riddle hidden in plain sight? Today we decode one of the most enigmatic, bizarre, and captivating masterworks in Western art history, Gabrielle d'Estrées and one of her sisters. Grab a seat, grab your tea, and let's dive into the story behind the painting.
Welcome to Story Behind the Painting, where we dive into the most famous art works and learn a lot from that.
Let's start with the basics. What are we actually looking at? When was it made? And where? Painted around 1594 to 1600, during the height of the French Renaissance, this oil-on-wood painting sits permanently in the Department of Paintings at the Louvre Museum in Paris. In the immediate foreground, two women sit inside a marble bathtub draped with a light, shiny white silk cloth. Heavy, dramatic red velvet curtains frame them like actors on a theatrical stage. The figure on the right is Gabrielle d'Estrées, the legendary mistress of King Henri IV of France. She holds a small gold ring between her left fingers. The figure on the left is believed to be her sister, Juliette de Villars, the Duchess of Villars. She extends her right hand across and pinches Gabrielle's right nipple. Through the opening of the red drapes into the shadowy room behind them, another scene unfolds. A woman, likely a wet nurse or a symbol of fate, sits by a glowing fireplace sewing or unpicking a piece of red cloth. Above the mantelpiece hangs a partially veiled painting of a nude figure. To understand why on earth anyone painted this, we have to look at France in the late 1500s. France was recovering from decades of brutal religious conflicts known as the French Wars of Religion. King Henri IV was on the throne, but he desperately needed a legitimate male heir to secure his royal line and bring peace to a fractured country. Appears Gabrielle d'Estrées. She was far more than just a mistress. She was Henri IV's chief advisor, confidant, and the love of his life. The strange gesture of pinching the nipple was actually Renaissance symbolic shorthand. In early modern visual language, this specific act signified motherhood, lactation, and the announcement of a pregnancy. Gabrielle was carrying King Henri IV's illegitimate son, César, born in 1594. And that ring in her fingers? It's believed to represent the coronation ring Henri IV gifted her, signaling his controversial plan to divorce his wife, marry Gabrielle, and make her the Queen of France. So who actually commissioned this painting and why? Here is where art history turns into a detective thriller. We do not officially know who commissioned it, but art historians strongly favor two main theories. The primary theory is that King Henri IV himself, or someone close to his inner court, commissioned the work to subtly broadcast Gabrielle's legitimacy. Henri was madly in love with Gabrielle, but his court was horrified by the prospect of him marrying a noblewoman who was not royalty. By ordering a painting that celebrated both her pregnancy via her sister's gesture and their future marriage via the ring, Henri was using art as sophisticated political propaganda. It declared that she is carrying the royal bloodline and that she will be my queen. Theory 2, Gabrielle's claim to power. The second theory suggests Gabrielle d'Estrées commissioned it herself. In the treacherous waters of the French court, mistresses were easily replaced. Gabrielle needed to solidify her status. By placing herself alongside her sister in a setting that oozed luxury, pearls, silk, velvet, and aristocratic bathhouses, she asserted her dominance, beauty, and essential role in the future of the French crown. Tragically, this story takes a dark turn. In April 1599, just days before her scheduled wedding to King Henri IV, and while heavily pregnant with their fourth child, Gabrielle suffered violent eclamptic fits and died. She never received her crown. The painting became not just a celebrated announcement, but a poignant visual monument to a future queen who never was. Now let's talk about the master behind the paintbrush. Who painted this masterpiece and what materials were used? The work is an oil painting on an oak wood panel, measuring 96 centimeters high by 125 centimeters wide. The artist utilized a classic French Renaissance palette, rich crimson reds, deep shadow tones, and glowing alabaster flesh tones. The smooth polished treatment of their skin gives the figures a carved, marble-like quality. If you look at the museum plaque next to the painting in the Louvre, the artist's name isn't listed. It simply reads, Anonymous. However, art historians attribute the work to the Second School of Fontainebleau. The School of Fontainebleau wasn't a physical building or a single academy, but a dominant artistic movement in 16th century France. King François I and later King Henri IV brought top Italian Mannerist painters like Rosso Fiorentino and Primaticcio to redecorate the Palace of Fontainebleau. One of the most famous paintings in the world has no known artist. French painters trained side by side with these elite Italian masters, absorbing and reshaping their unique style into what we now know as French Mannerism. You can see this aesthetic dialogue across every inch of the canvas: elongated, idealized anatomy. Notice the extended, elegant body proportions, the unnaturally slender necks, long fingers, and smooth curves that prioritize graceful design over rigid anatomical realism. Porcelain surface, finish. The figures feature remarkably cool, smooth porcelain skin. The brushwork is so seamless and meticulously blended that it completely erases any trace of the artist's hand, giving the women an ethereal, statuesque quality. Impassive, mask-like expressions. Rather than conveying raw human emotion, their faces remain impassive, symmetrical, and wax-like. Their blank outward gaze deliberately distances them from the viewer, wrapping the scene in an air of icy detachment. Complex allegorical sensuality. The composition expertly balances subtle sensuality with heavy, multi-layered allegory, blending erotic intimacy with cold, coded messages of court politics and royal succession. Because the Palace of Fontainebleau operated as a collective, highly organized workshop system, these court artists worked in tight collaboration, often sharing tasks like drawing, painting, and gilding. Under royal patronage, individual creative egos took a back seat to the glorification of the monarch, meaning artists rarely signed their canvases. Thus, the painter of this world-famous image remains a ghost in the archives, an unknown master whose name is lost to time, leaving the artwork itself to speak across the centuries. What is it about Gabrielle d'Estrées and one of her sisters that continues to fascinate viewers after more than 4 centuries? On the surface, it remains one of the most enigmatic portraits in Western art history, a cool, striking image of 2 beautiful women rendered with the polished precision of white marble. But when you step past the surreal beauty and look closer, the painting transforms into a multi-layered political drama captured on wood panel. Every element in the frame serves a dual purpose. The intimate pinch of the nipple acts as a visual announcement of royal lineage. The gold ring symbolizes an ambitious path to the French throne. The shadowy seamstress in the background unpicks thread, a chilling foreshadowing of fate cutting Gabrielle's life short before she could ever wear the crown. It bridges private intimacy and public propaganda, artful eroticism and political necessity. Above all, it stands as a poignant monument to Gabrielle d'Estrées, a woman who held the heart of a king and shaped the future of France, immortalized forever at the absolute height of her influence, power, and beauty. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 32 of Story Behind the Painting. If you want to view high-resolution details of Gabrielle d'Estrées and one of her sisters, explore interactive 3D room views of the Louvre, or uncover hidden stories behind thousands of other famous artworks from around the globe, you need to download the MUZEA app. MUZEA is your personal, pocket-sized art historian. Whether you're standing directly in front of a painting at a museum or exploring galleries from the comfort of your couch, MUZEA brings world-class art history straight to your phone with audio guides, high-def zooming, and curated visual breakdowns. Head to the App Store or Google Play Store today, search MUZEA, and download it for free. Transform the way you experience art. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, leave us a review, and join us next week for episode 33. Until then, keep looking closer.
Welcome to Story Behind the Painting, where we dive into the most famous art routes and learn a lot from that.